Hello, welcome everybody to this first meeting of 2022. Hope you've had a happy new year. It's great to see you all again. So if that's okay, no further ado, we shall start the meeting on time, if that's alright. I'm a little bit late, my apologies. Okay, public question time. We have a few people to speak. Public question time. We have Glenn who would like to speak on the Ask Holme, if that's okay. If you'd like to come to the front and then turn and face everybody, I think that will be easy for everybody, if that's okay. And you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Right, thank you for inviting me to this. I'm just going to give a quick overview of the work that we've done so far. So obviously Ask Holme happened at the end of 2019. Obviously certain things have happened since then that slowed the process down a fair bit. And what we did from the number of questions that came in, we categorised 14 questions in various areas. And scored those. And then what we did was a series of work where we took the scores and took the lowest scoring areas and looked at what the themes were within that by looking not only at the scoring but the actual comments that people made. That's allowed us to have a view as to what we think the areas of focus need to be. We've got that, we've agreed how we're going to publish that information on the council website, on Kirklees website. So I guess what we've got at the moment is we've got a fairly small working party. We've got people like councillors Paul White, Sean East and Charles Greaves are on that committee. And what we're going to do is we're going to run a couple of workshops for local people to feed back in effect what the themes are and what the areas of concern were that were raised to us. That will allow us, if you like, to validate that we're looking at the right things, because obviously things may have changed in the last couple of years. We just want to revalidate that information. Once we've got that, what we will do is come up with an action plan as to what the next stages will be, and those will be probably split down into small groups of people running each one. Some may need some input from yourselves, some may need input from Kirklees. Obviously we don't know what those actions are yet until we've gone through that validation process. I think one of the things we have to look at particularly is the cost of change against doability. How easy is it to do, and actually what benefit are you going to get? Because there's no point spending £1 million on something that gives us very little benefit. Similarly, there might be something that needs 10 grand spending on it that will give massive benefit. So we'll come up with those areas and come up with a short, medium and long-term plan. And that really is it for me, just to give you an update as to where we are, what the next steps are. Obviously, we'll keep you informed as to what's going on. Obviously, some of you are already on those working groups, so you're directly involved anyway. Anybody any questions? Yeah.
I suppose, well, first of all, I think it was a fantastic piece of work, and I only skim-read it, but I think it.
Yeah.
You know, I need to print it off and look at the graphs better.
Yeah.
The thing that I thought was interesting was this. One of the sections is about democracy or having your say.
Yeah.
And I think it's notable that people didn't really mention the parish,
Yeah.
either in a positive or in a negative way. And maybe that's something we need to think about how we can use that as a better engagement tool in the area.
I would agree. I think there are a lot of processes that the council, Kirklees and yourselves go through that local people just don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think some of that is as well publicised as it could be, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
You know, all the good work that's already done, people don't necessarily see it as much as they maybe should do. We have got a local website, holme.info now, that the Business Association brought up. So again, we're looking at whether or not that could be one of the mechanisms to help. When process things come up, people tend to get angry about new houses and all these normal things, but don't always understand the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes, you know, before those processes get approved or disproved, you know. So I think it's a good idea to help communicate some of the good stuff that's being done. I mean, to be fair, you know, one of the themes that came up was the youth. You know, the Parish Council supported our youth project, gave us £4,000 at the end of 2020 to help set that up, and that's going really well. You know, the zebra crossings have been improved locally as well. So some of those themes that were brought up are already being tackled, but it's how we communicate that to the people, local people. Yes, sorry.
Just a quick one. Because I'm assuming you work for Kirklees Council.
No, I'm purely voluntary. I just live local. I'm part of the Holme Village Community Trust and involved in the youth project as well.
Sorry, I didn't appreciate that. I don't know, in which case you probably can't answer this question, but I just wondered if there was a budget that had been sort of set aside to help implement the outputs, I guess, of Arts Holme?
My understanding from the council there is, quite how much there is,
Okay.
I guess is up for debate.
So there is some money for
And
it.
to be honest, that is the next phase of the plan, once we work out what those actions need to be. Car parking is a big thing in Holme, but we're not going to build a multi-storey car park in the middle of Holme just so people can park. So, you know, there are some things that can be done and some things that are obviously wish lists, but probably are not likely to happen anytime soon.
Well, thank you, Glenn.
No problem at all.
Well, we will bring the item up the agenda. So,
Well, thank you for your support so far, and hope you enjoy the rest of your meeting. Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, but I believe that Councillor Dunscarve might speak as a member of the public. That's okay.
Yeah, some of you might have seen the email that I sent out this afternoon, which I then was less worried about having had a quick conversation with Rich. When I tried to ring the office phone didn't ring. Hopefully that's been resolved as well. Over the weekend, two things really, and they're both relating to Queen's Jubilee. The storm basically broke the base of the beacon that's upon Clifford, just behind my house. So I saw it, managed to get hold of various people on the committee, because both Mary and Councillors Mary Wacker and Tom Dixon are also on the Friends of Recreation committee. I'm not, I'm just a resident. So I highlighted it with them, made some calls to people I happen to know in the authority who run forestry, because I thought this needs to come down because it was dangerous and wobbly, and if the kids had started to push it, it could have been really ugly. So anyway, it's now toppled. It's literally on the floor, and it will need re-erecting if it's going to be used for the Jubilee celebrations in early June. And I know I might have a chance to speak to Mary, and I know Mary doesn't really know the answer anyway, but there is going to be a cost to that, and it could be significant, or it may be that monies can be found or sponsors can be found, but the clock's ticking quite quickly. So my request to the parish was going to be, is there any way of ensuring, or at least giving confidence to the group that it will happen, even if that means almost underwriting it. And there's not really a process to bring a formal thing to the meeting tonight, but there is. The budget sits with Pubs and Commons. I've not had a chance to speak to Rachel, but that's an increased budget for next year, isn't it? But I don't know how much room for manoeuvre there is. And there's also some money in the reserves for this activities. So hopefully there's a workaround. I guess that's what I'm saying. I don't think we can make a formal decision tonight, but I would request that the parish find some way to enable that to happen. And the other thing is something that's just come out on the BBC today. It's been very quiet really about what's happening in terms of Jubilee parties, but there is a plan on Sunday to do a Jubilee lunch, sort of classic sort of Jubilee street party type activities, also as a thank you event. And I'm hoping that'll be raised and discussed at the Pubs and Commons meeting, and that's rescheduled for next week. But again, I think it's really not just ideas, it's also volunteers. So if there's any people in their own communities that think they could lead something or facilitate something, I think all those offers of help are going to be welcome, because I'm not sure who out there would naturally just step up and say, yeah, I'll do a street party, or we could put something on the Civic Hall, we could put something in a Humble Library maybe. You know, we can have a think about it, and I know me and Pat have already exchanged emails about the Civic. So just to raise your awareness really that that's happening, but we are going to have to move quite quickly if we're going to get something meaningful to happen over that weekend.
Thank you for bringing that to us. Thank you.
Can I suggest that we quickly committee put like a grant application in for sort of repairs? You know, I mean, we don't know how it's going to cost to get it repaired, but surely we can apply for grants towards repairs.
So, Councillor Wacker?
I was just going to say that when it was first erected, it's been up there for 10 years, you know, very exposed position, so it's done quite well in a way, but it was a bit of a shock. So we at the moment we're going back to the original manufacturers of all sorts and Thornton fencing to see what they might be able to do this time, to see how much of the wood is actually recoverable. So we don't have a price yet, but that's where we are. So and undoubtedly the cost could be significant. So we haven't really got around to ways of thinking about how we're going to fund it, but I'm sure we can.
Councillor Dalton?
Yeah, when you could take an approach and just ask the owner of Allsops and the other sponsor, Gear Welding, whether they'll repair it and get a photo in the paper and do it for nothing. I'm sure if the right people spoke to the right people, that could happen.
I think it's well we're going for an approach, yes. I think I would, you know.
Would you like me to speak to the owners of those businesses and ask them if they'd be prepared to do that?
Well, thanks for the offer, James. Well, I think we've already made an initial approach to what, so we'll continue. Yeah, thanks very much.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you
Just
for
be
that.
wary that the owner of Allsops is currently undergoing a end-of-life terminal cancer, and just bear that in mind if you're approaching them.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Has everyone else would like to speak at public question time? Okay, so we'll move on to the agenda. Public Bodies Resolution Meeting Act 1960 amended by Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulation 2014. The local parish council meeting can now be recorded. The chairman can check if anybody wishes to record the meeting. The officer present will record the meeting in audio format for upload to the parish council's YouTube channel. Does anyone want to record it for themselves? Okay, thank you. Apologies and reasons for absence received. Has everybody seen the circulated list of councillors that submitted apologies?
Mr. Chairman, no, I haven't. Alan? Sorry, how are you?
No.
No.
No. Well, I assume that you were on the list that went round to full council, but maybe I'm mistaken in that.
It would be lovely to be copied in on these things.
Okay, can we ensure that Councillor Dottle's copied it on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so to consider apologies for absence and reasons. Are we all okay with those? Reasons have been circulated. Okay, members interested in items on the agenda and to consider any written requests for new DPI dispensations. Members interested in items on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, just before we carry on, has everybody apologised who's not turning up?
I don't believe they have. I believe there are some people turning up.
There seems to be a theme going on with certain councillors not apologising and not turning up.
Would you like me to write to other councillors and ask them to email other councillors and ask them to submit apologies in a timely fashion?
I think we need to start taking steps because it's. I think we've mentioned it a couple of times. Certain councillors that what they need to do procedures they don't seem to follow. We need to look at it again and say, well, this is not fair. And the councillors try not doing what we have to do.
I will write to all of you.
Thank you.
So, to consider members' interest in items on the agenda. Does anyone want to declare any interest in items on the agenda? No, I can see. To consider any revised DPIs received will be circulated prior to the meeting with the version to HPPC website subsequent to this meeting. I believe we received one. Has everybody seen that one? Councillor Blacker?
I don't believe I have.
Okay, again, we'll sort that out and make sure you will get them circulated. That's what we're done. Okay. Are we all okay with the, yes, are we all okay with the recent DPI from Councillor Blacker? Is that all right? No. Item 21, 22, 101, offers interest in items of the agenda. No. No. Okay, to consider whether items should be discussed in private on the agenda should be discussed in private session. Has anybody any idea of any items? No. Okay, at this
Chair,
point,
there might be part of the finance bit. There is one bit that's sensitive there if people want to discuss it. They'll go outside the building. If questions get asked about it, I think that should be not recorded.
okay, I think that's a good point. So you want to put forward that any conversations regarding Garside's buildings, because it could be commercially sensitive to that business, you would like that be redacted from the recordings. Is anyone going to second that? All in favour? Thank you, yeah, that's it. Okay, before we get to, I'd just like to, regarding the agenda, we're going to move on to the items. Item 2122 112, Councillor Dalton submitted some information that we'd like all councillors to note prior to discussion of that item. However, that information wasn't able to circulate in the 10 days notice that we would have to be submitted according to our standing orders. Therefore, I would like to propose that we defer that item until March, so that all councillors can note that information submitted by Councillor Dalton prior to discussion of that item. So I propose that. I've got a second there. Councillor Brooke, all those in favour? Can we stick your hands up again, all those in favour? Yes, I think we're there. Thank you. Okay, so committee minutes under delegated powers. Is that? No, gone too far. Item 2122 103, the draft minutes of the full council meeting on 30th December 2021, number 212266 to 212297. Holme Valley Parish Council Chairman to report. I believe they're an accurate record. However, I would like to comment that item 212295, I resolved that I would write to our MP. I'd like to apologise to the Parish Council. I've not done that due to being suffering COVID over the New Year period and really just not being on top of it and being behind. So I will resolve to do that this weekend, and please accept my apologies. Other than that, I'd like to move that those. I believe I also have not written. We resolved that I would write to the responsible financial officer and thank him for his support that he provided his parish council over the summer, and I've not done that, and I will do that again this weekend. That's okay. Other than that, I'd like to move that they're those minutes are an accurate record. What's further? Thank you. So committee meetings under delegated powers. Item 2122 draft minutes of the planning committee. Councillor Black.
Can I move that the council approves the draft minutes of the planning committee on the 10th of January? Please.
We've got a second there. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 2122 draft minutes of the finance and management committee. Councillor
Can
Connor.
I move that the draft minutes of the Finance and Management Committee, number 212269 to 212282, be approved?
Okay, have a second there. Councillor East. All those in favour? Thank you. Okay, referrals for standing committees. Item 2122 environment, EMAT reserves, 323 EMR community assets to 4315 other community assets budget line. Would the responsible financial officer like to report on that?
Yeah, sure. So this was it was an expression of interest form that came in from the Holme Village Community Centre trustees. If we'd had more time, we would have encouraged them to submit an application, but time was pressing, and it kind of fell at the wrong time of the year, really. So what the Finance and Management Committee has recommended to Council is to release some reserves from the earmark reserve, the other community assets earmark reserve, into the other community assets budget line, so that it could be used potentially if the application is successful in the March meeting of the Finance Committee.
Okay, so we're all okay with that? What we're asking for there? We're expecting them to make an application for £5,000 because they've currently got no electric because the electricity supply has failed, and we're going to buy funds into the budget, so if that application is successful, we can grant it. It doesn't mean we're definitely going to give them the money, but we're putting money available, so if it's a good application and one we want to support, we can support. So we're all in favour, so you're not voting in favour of giving them the money, we're voting in favour of making the money available if they've got a valid complaint. Councillor Coyne?
No, I'm voting in favour.
Okay, so I've got a proposer. Councillor Coyne, seconder. Councillor East, all those in favour? Thank you. Item 21-22-107, approval of precept for 2023. The finance, would the RFO like to report? It's item paper E.
Yeah, so you'll remember last year that the tax base figure went down quite a lot, and you'll remember that that had an impact on our precept, which also went down by a few thousand. This year it's gone up by quite a lot. It's gone up about 300 or 400 points, so it's about an extra 8,000 on the precept that the parish council will be getting if the charges to the households remain the same, which is what the Finance and Management Committee agreed and which council approved at the last meeting. So this basically is to agree the precept figures, which will be forwarded on by the clerk later this week to Kirkley. So the revised figures based on the revised tax base figure is 282,693 for the precept. And then you'll remember that we have this special expenses grant of 32 pence per Band D household, and that will go up to 3328. So you're basically approving those figures to be forwarded to Kirklees as our official precept and special expenses grant.
Okay, is there any questions or comments regarding that? Councillor Dalton?
Yeah, what discussions, I'd like to know if the information is available, what discussions were had on the possibility of reducing the precept during finance?
Councillor Holme?
This is actually a bit of a formality because there wasn't any formal discussion on that either in finance and management or in the full council meeting, but the last full council meeting approved this. What we're approving now is the thing we agreed last time was done on an estimate of what the precept would be from Kirklees. We now know exactly what it is, so this is a formal application to really ratify what's already been approved by full council, now that we know the precise sums.
Okay, does that answer your query?
I think it answered my question, yes.
And with the answer to your question, I suppose, is none.
None, right, thank you.
None since these figures were received?
Well, even in F&M, there was nobody on the F&M committee who wanted to raise the issue of reducing the precept. We discussed what we could do, and there was no lengthy discussion about, I mean, it was one of the options on a paper, obviously, and there was
yeah.
It's just a fair request, and thank you for your answer,
Yeah.
Councillor Colin. But could I ask of the Chairman that in next year, that's a serious consideration as well as the other options of freezing or increasing the precept?
It was serious.
Can we go through the chair and not just chip
Sorry,
in whenever we
I'm
want?
sorry.
Please, Councillor Hughley.
Yeah, I was just going to comment from my experience on finance and management. The way in which the discussion is framed is really around the collation of the budget from all the input from the different committees, and then the finance and management reviews what that budget was and the impact on reserves and the precept. And at that point it was recognised that all the budget requests required a certain amount of money, and in order to achieve that you could, obviously there were adjustments you could make with the precept, but the budget was what was driving the decision making. So if you wanted to achieve that budget, then sort of I guess, unless you wiped out all the reserves, which obviously went against our financial policies, you'd end up with, you either had to cut your budget, or you'd say, well, we would have to increase the precept. And we never really talked about increasing the precept. We talked about, well, if we froze it, what would that impact be on reserves, and seeing if that was suitable or not. So there was general discussion around the impact on the precept, but I think it was fairly soon that there was sort of consensus on the Finance and Management Committee that actually the precept would be best to stay where it was, and then the budget would flex or could flex according to what you wanted to seek from reserves. So I think in general, the principle of should it go up, should it go down, I think there was consensus that it was never right to raise it in the current climate, but there was the opportunity to keep it at the same level.
Can I make a point? They were certainly given information, Councillor, on how it would affect the charge to households. Basically, every pound that goes off the household charge would save or cost us £10,000 from reserves. So that was all laid out, plus £1, plus £2, plus £5, minus £5. So it was all there for them to see. So that was an option that they considered.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So, has anyone else got any comments on the precept? Okay, so would someone like to propose that, well, I propose as Chair of the Council that we approve the precept as detailed. Does anyone second that? Councillor Collins? All those in favour? Thank you very much. Item 21, 22 and 108. Recommendation, Holme Parish Council Budget 22-23. On 17th January 2022, Finance Committee managers resolved to recommend a revised budget for 22-23 in light of changes to the tax base for the precept as above. See minutes 212267 and 212275.
Chair,
Richard.
it's exactly what I just said to Councillor Dalton. It's exactly what we all agreed before, where we were estimating how much money we'd have, and this is revised in light of what we actually have.
Yeah, what it's basically showing is that we need 8,000 less from our reserves to meet the budget. So it's a positive development essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else any comments? Anyone like to comment on that? Or ask any queries, questions, or anything? Okay, so as Chair, I will propose approving that revised Holme Parish Council Budget 2022-2023. Have we got a second? Councillor Colling, all those in favour? Carried, thank you. Matter reserved for full council, scheduled payments. Scheduled payments attached G has been prepared for this meeting. Consider approval of scheduled payments. Have we all seen that? That's the one that you changed it. Please note that Responsible Finance Officer has, because there was a typo, has recirculated the revised copy. That's okay. We all have seen the revised copy. Okay, so propose that we approve that. Councillor Blacker, Councillor Brooke, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay. 21, 22, 110, formalising of COVID procedures. Has everyone had a look at what there is there? Would anyone like to discuss or raise any points about it? Councillor Dalton.
Yeah, I've got a number of points being raised that come out of the paper that I'm quite disturbed about, quite honestly, Mr. Chairman. It's not the job of this council to interfere with people's medical decisions, and we're not qualified to do so. With respect to the ingestion of what essentially are still experimental products that are going around, I think that's a matter for individuals and their doctors alone, and I don't think the council should be getting involved in any shape or form, encouraging what are perceived to be safer behaviours by whichever government departments come out with the perception of what safe behaviours. I don't think it's the business of this council to get involved. So I certainly wouldn't want this council to be giving any advice to anybody with respect to medical interventions.
Okay. Thank you for that contribution, Councillor Dalton. Have we any other? Councillor Holme.
Yeah, the query I had is nothing to do with that. It's about the use of this room for future full council meetings. I have no aversion to this room, but if we're just using it because it's a bigger space, I would suggest that we could go back to the aspiration to have our full council meetings in different places around the valley. and I believe there are probably some other large venues that we could rotate round rather than always having it at this room. I'm just conscious we had, for example, a full council meeting in Brockholes Village Hall, which I'm sure we could still achieve the socially distanced space. So I just would ask that the clerk perhaps consider the opportunity to, I'm not averse to us having, as I say, a full council moving around. I think that's a really good thing to have, COVID or no COVID. But I think it would be a shame if we just seem to favour Haydedge if there are other suitable venues, and I would leave that to the clerk and deputy clerk to research and establish.
Okay, any other comments? No. So, the matters on the agenda.
If I may, Mr. Chair, it's to do with, this issue. The venues, our natural venue, the meeting room, is not convenient for certain councils. It's not got good access, and this is a much better venue, for instance, to have a meeting, in my view. So, again, but I don't think really that's got anything to do with formalisation of COVID procedures. I think it's a separate issue for the council that the council needs to take on board anyway.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, we have 3 points here. One is the adopting of whatever prevailing government guidance or regulation with regards to COVID process communicated by the clerk and deputy duty prior to meetings. Yeah, so that's the first item. Have anyone else on the Councillor Dalton like to speak to that? Sorry, Councillor Dalton can speak again if he likes, but I think he's made his point quite clear so far. Has anyone else got it? Councillor?
I'm just asking what we're being asked to do. Are we being asked to effective? And I don't know why. I seem to have a version of the papers that hasn't got that, but the papers I read this afternoon did have it. I can't see it on the computer at the moment. But what are we being asked to approve? Is it like a protocol of how we're going to? It seems to be a mixture of guidance, general guidance about COVID, and also something about how we might meet. I mean, I support it, and I just want to move it, but I'm just checking what we legally are agreeing to.
I mean, my understanding is that we're, it may not be as worded as I would have liked, but it's we're looking at, as far as our parish council meetings are concerned, we will continue to adhere to the government guidance at that time.
Yeah.
Can I change the wording of that?
Yeah, can I just interject, if you wouldn't mind, Chairman? Thank you. So, basically, I know from emails that have been sent beforehand that some councillors have queried what are we doing about COVID restrictions over mask wearing and things like that. And there's clearly been some anxiety about that among some councillors at least. And it was quite difficult to come up with this wording because, you know, we're here as your officers to do what you want us to do. So it really is a somewhat open-ended discussion about, okay, we haven't sort of got in any minutes anywhere so far what you as a council want us to do regarding anything we do or don't do. You know, so it's really giving you the opportunity to discuss that, and it may be that, you know, some other motions are brought to a later meeting, more specific motions, but at least there's the opportunity to discuss it now.
Okay. I mean, from me as the chairman's point of view, I'd like to encourage as many people as possible, as many councillors as possible to attend council meetings. Yeah. If some people are reluctant to attend for various reasons, anxiety around COVID, I would like to reassure them, and I'd like other parish councils to reassure them that we will try and comply and accommodate their wishes so that they can function and get on and attend the parish council. However, we are restricted by the government guidance that we should meet, you know, we need to meet. We can't do this remotely. We have to meet in person, we have to meet in a room. So, I think we should adopt, you know, I think it's fair to say that we will continue to abide by the government guidance and the government legislation that is at that time. We're not about breaking the law, you know, whatever that may be. Yeah, I think we should come with that. I don't think we can go beyond that and say to somebody that you will not attend unless you know, going above and beyond what the government legislation is. I think we can ask, we can encourage, if that means that more people will come and attend, but I don't think I can force any parish councillor, or the parish council can enforce its constituent councillors to go above and beyond what the law requires to attend a meeting. Yeah? So, and that's kind of where we are. Maybe that's not enough for some people to actually make their attendance because of their anxieties, but all I can ask is we try and accommodate as many people as we can so we can get a full attendance. Regarding the venue, I agree that the exhibition room is not a good place, not a great place to meet in. It's a difficult one to meet in. I know that there's some councillors have made me aware that they will not be attending parish council meetings while they're meeting here. For their, you know, they believe they should be at the exhibition room, and that's where they should be, and their preference is there. They've said that they will not be attending parish council meetings in the future unless they are at that venue. It provides us with a difficulty because I want everybody who can and wants to attend. The Civic Hall, one of the bigger rooms, will be an option. However, Monday nights, both those bigger rooms are booked out by other people. So, for me, my proposal would be, regarding the first two items, I think we should move them to just, we will continue to abide by government legislation regarding COVID regulations. Yeah? I think we should just consolidate those into that.
I'll second that, that's all we can do.
Yeah? Are we okay if we can get rid of the first two by consolidating into that? So, that's my proposal. Are there a seconder? All those in favour? Thank you. Regarding the venue, where we're moving to, and what have you, I take on board Councillor Hogley's comments. For myself, I think it's something that we should continue to review. I don't think we should say for the rest of the year, or for however long distance we're going to meet here, or we're going to meet there, or we're not going to meet in the same place. I think for full council meetings, we should continue to review it at each council meeting where we are with the COVID situation as it moves. So I would propose that we, for the next full council meeting, the clerk looks to source a venue that's appropriate so we can meet in a more spaced out area, whether that be here, whether that be another venue throughout the whole valley area, but somewhere not the exhibition room. And then we will review that, and we'll be standing item on the agenda in the next full council that will make a decision then. Councillor Collins and then Councillor Brown.
Can I suggest that we consider, separate from COVID and spacing, the point raised by Councillor Hogley that certainly informing them, several of us have thought that for us to go out to the people of the valley is quite a good idea and make it easier and move round rather than say here's where we are and you all have to get to us. And that we consider this separate from being a COVID issue, that the idea of going round to different village halls and things regularly, I mean, as an ongoing thing, including Home First, of course.
Councillor Brown?
Well, Councillor Collins just said there, I mean, I think it should be on the next agenda to discuss, but also, normally when we have the annual parish meeting, we used to meet at a separate, different venue. Last couple of years we've met Civic Hall, but maybe can we go back to what we used to do with the annual general meeting, that we went out to the public instead of the public coming to us. I mean, in the past we've used Methodist church, but there's no reason why we can't go to Holme for 1 year, or as you said,
The library.
or even the library, yeah.
Councillor Curry?
I don't really know where to put this on the agenda because it's not really one of the things that was part of this report, but it was something that was circulated between meetings, which is about the campaign that's ongoing to allow us to have online meetings as well. And I think as part of our reaching out, I think one of the things we can do is go to different venues. We can make better use of community notice boards and Facebook posts, and I think Rich has put a few things up recently that's certainly generated new interest. But one of the other things, obviously, is to be more accessible by allowing people to join us online, just to make a quick statement. And I remain confused as to why people seem to get their head around that. Most of the councillors in our council seem to like it. And for certain meetings and at certain times, I think it's appropriate. So I guess I'm just expressing concern that we still can't. I don't know if the clerk or anybody knows if there's any movement or conversations happening nationally about that. But you know, I do think we need to keep on pushing on how we engage online and possibly in meetings online as well.
Okay, Councillor Hugway.
I mean, I would echo some of what Councillor Carey's saying in terms of not that we should have our meetings digitally, because I don't think we should, but I do think we need to re-energise the efforts we made with sort of technology to try and allow members of the public to speak to us remotely, because I think that it sort of works and we couldn't quite get the technology to work, but I think we should try again, because I think for the public open session, which isn't actually formally part of, obviously it's part of our formal meetings, but my understanding is it's not actually formal business, and therefore members of the public, there's no legal reason they can't speak to us in that way. You know, it's not like it's invalid if they speak to us remotely, it's just that we can't sort of do the rest of the meeting remotely. But I do think it is really good if we are able to move towards allowing people to either come and speak to us in person or speak to us remotely, because I think that would be a really, it's a small step forward, but I think it would make us more accessible whilst recognising the legal requirements of actually meeting and the benefits indeed of meeting and debating in a real world scenario rather than a virtual one.
Any further comments on design before we go? So I'm reluctant to put forward, as said, continue using Hayden band room for full council meetings, the exhibition room for committee meetings, because that's kind of like fixed, and that's what we will be doing ongoing forward until someone put another motion that we wouldn't go there. I think we should look at myself, I'll stick to what I said previously, that I think we should fix that we will meet, we'll keep committee meetings to the exhibition room, which we have been doing, but the full council meeting should be an alternative, bigger, more appropriate venue, and a venue that members of the public can attend to, and if the clerk can look and find one for the next meeting, not necessarily, but not ruling out Hayden band room, because it may be that that's the only one that's available on a Monday. So, but I think we should look for alternatives if there is any ability. Councillor Don.
Yeah, we've got a number of, I'm nothing against band up, we designed the building after all, but it would be nice to have a meeting at the other end of the parish, Holme or Brockles. We're a long way from Holme, and it would be nice to have a meeting up that end of the parish.
So we'll propose we find an alternate venue, and looking at the wider parish, you know, without not ruling anywhere out, but I think you've got the flavour of the meeting and the committee that we would like to go to the masses.
Yes,
Yeah.
Rich and I will
Woolfield, that's quite central, Woolfield,
Yeah.
the shop.
Rich and I will discuss about what Councillor Holme says about the remote access for members of the public, and report back on that, maybe with a motion at a later meeting.
Okay, so I propose, Councillor
My
Collins.
understanding on that is that the public could use Zoom, because it's only voting people who aren't allowed to use Zoom, isn't it? So the public could attend, I believe.
Yeah, I think we need that ratifying, and then we'll have to get the technology to deliver that. Yeah, does that
It's
we've got most of the technology.
so, yeah. Sorry, Richard, that's my work.
We suggest we put out pros and cons to discuss further, because it's part of pros and cons really.
So we'll look for an alternate venue, but are we okay with reviewing at every full council meeting the venue for the next one? So that becomes a standing item until we decide that we'll go back to the issue. If we do ever decide that we'll go back to the issue. I must also make the parish council aware that there is a cost implication on that, and the parish council going to alternate venues. We do have to pay for them. Whereas if we're in the exhibition room, there's not. That's the cost that we already outstanding paid. Councillor Donald?
Maybe it doesn't need mentioning, but obviously the place can't serve alcohol.
Yes, you're quite correct, where's we need it.
The civic camp.
No, the room where we are, it needs to be a room.
Oh, the room.
Yeah, can't be back
I
of
was
the
going to
page.
say, well, nearly everywhere, so it's not cold.
No, it's part of the
Yeah.
town council.
But it's
Yeah.
if it's just the room we're in, that's fine.
Yeah, it wouldn't have to be, yeah. That's my understanding, that it has to be the room secure away from the bar, can't be a licensed premises where we have it. There may be licensed premises within the building, but not the building where that's the room where that's the meeting.
So does that rule out the trip to 10,000?
I don't think that's licensed premises anyway. Anyway, I don't have to comment on that. It's beyond, it's outside the parish council area, so I think we'll leave that one alone. Okay, so can we just vote on that we're going to have decide every meeting where we're going to go for the next one? All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Item 21.22.111, proposed schedule for council year 2020. These has been drawn up for council in line with standing orders for consideration. Clerk to report.
Yes, apologies, on the meeting schedule I sent out, I managed to miss all the timings and the clerking of the meetings on the proposed the 9th of January and 16th of January. But apart from that, what I would say is, Rich and I have discussed this schedule in terms of when meetings need to happen to give consideration to grants, in terms of finance and management and service provision, trying to make sure that we've got no doubling up of meetings so that we're sort of just ending any idea of having 2 meetings on the same evening. And then there is one of the reasons why there's a finance and management meeting in August, I think. The one on the 22nd of August is because we were aware that, you know, we do have people we need to pay and it's getting that approval for payments to happen. So if anyone wants to comment or give any other alternative proposals, we'd be happy to take those on board.
Councillor Dalton?
Just to confirm, they are all Mondays.
They are.
Any further comments? Okay, can I ask the council, Parish Council, please? Schedule. Thank you very much. Okay. As previously discussed, item 21.22.112 is going to be deferred until March. Item 21.22.113, adopting revised codes of conduct from Kirklees. Kirklees Council has recently adopted a revised code of conduct based on the Local Government Association LGA model. The principal difference is a stylistic one, with emphasis on the code being presented in the first person. Would anyone like to comment? Okay, I'm quite
Sorry, I might as well make my comment then.
Okay.
I think the code of conduct that we signed, or councillors that were elected in 2019, the code of conduct that they signed was a much better code of conduct than the one that was subsequently adopted, and this is no better, as you say. It's minor amendments to the previous one, and still, in my view, an approved document.
Okay. Thank you for your comments, Councillor Dalton. Are there any other comments? Okay, I propose that we adopt the code, the Kirklees Code of Conduct as circulated. Have we any seconder? Councillor Carey, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay, item 21.22.114, approval of revised financial regulations regarding asset register policies and management policy statement. Would you like to report, Richard?
Yeah, so these are 3 policy amendments. They've already been through the Finance and Management Committee, but only the full council can actually approve any amendments to policy. So I will work through them. So these are basically recommendations from our internal auditor, who's trying to help us so that our practice matches with what it says in our policies. So with regard to the first one, which is a small amendment of the financial regulations, as it stood originally, we were meant to get 3 quotes for everything we bought over £100. which she suggested and I would suggest is a very low amount to require three quotes, and B, we weren't doing it, so it was going against our practice. So she recommended this change, that we move to needing 3 quotations between £1,000 and £3,000 to basically bring the policy in line with our practice.
Okay, would anyone like to comment? Queries?
I'm absolutely fine with it. I was just going to be a pedant and ask that all the square brackets be removed from the contents list of the financial regulations when we update. Just because then it looks like those things are less important, which are not. It's not a material change.
Okay. Have we any other comments, anyone? Can that be done? Can the square brackets be removed?
I'm sure
Okay. So, I propose that we adopt the new asset register policy.
No,
I know we've not gone too far. To approve the recommendation for the finance and management that we will go from 100 to 3,000 to 1,000 to 3,000. I'll propose that. Councillor Davis second it. All those in favour? Thank you very much. And the next one, Richard, do you want to...
Well, I kind of wonder whether we should defer this in a sense, because I only remembered when I was looking at the thing today was when we discussed this at Finance and Management, the suggestion was that we should be including something, we should be amending as I've written it so that the disposal aspect of it was greener, i.e. it was more economically friendly, and I've forgotten that I said I was going to do that, so I don't know whether you want to defer it to another meeting or pass it with that.
Just to explain, we were advised that when we dispose of items, we should detail how why they were disposed of, the cost of that disposal, and the cost of the item that we were actually disposing of.
Yeah.
It was put forward that actually we should also detail how the item was being disposed of, and should be disposed of in an appropriate manner. Yeah, detail, so it's not just chucked in the canal, it's being disposed of in an appropriate place, appropriate to recycle where possible, gifted to some organisation that could use it if possible, or disposed of at the tip if appropriate. So on the disposal we put the comment there. That's not being put there, so that's the reason why you're going to defer. That's
could defer, or you could just take it on what you just said. I mean, it wouldn't be much more than that.
Yeah.
The amendment wouldn't be much
My
more than
amendment
that.
would be that they put a detail for how something is disposed of. That's the problem.
I was going to say, you just said what I was going to say, we could put that amendment to agree to that, or we'd have to contact another meeting, but that makes more sense to just put the amendment on now and get it approved.
Are there any other comments? Okay, so I put that with the amendment that they detail how things are disposed of and in what manner, that we approve that. So all those in favour? Very much. Okay, and then last one, the internal auditor had further recommended that the Parish Council develop and adopt a risk management policy in accordance with Financial Regulation 7.1. Like to report, Richard?
Not really, that's it.
That's it. So, I take it we currently don't have a financial risk management policy.
I mean you've got one now to approve if you want to. It's a very simple, open-end. It's quite a broad. It's quite a broad thing. It's not a very specific thing.
Has everyone signed to that? Really? Does anyone any comments on it?
Could somebody just give me an example of where this would be used? I'm just struggling with it. Where would it be used? Give me an example.
Well, the idea is that it's a starting point for other risk assessment, for actual risk assessments. At the moment, we don't have a risk. We didn't have a risk assessment policy, and therefore the facts that for example, John Ford does a topple test in the graveyard. So the overarching risk assessment should lead to more specific risk assessments like that as we go.
Councillor Dolan.
Well, it's like financial risk, so you make sure you check the people who you're employing, make sure they haven't got convictions for fraud and things like that.
Indeed, yeah.
And also the example you gave when we discussed this in F&M, that it varies by council. If you're at the seaside and your income depends on renting out deck chairs, it's a lot more risky than it's like for us, where it's essentially the precept from Kirklees dominantly, and that's fairly predictable.
Yeah.
So-
So,
so
our
when-
financial risk, I perceive is less than say one of the coastal parish councillors who take a lesser precept but raise quite a lot of their money from renting out deck chairs, shades, beach, things like that. It's a considerable amount of income. Some parish councils have considerable amount of income from graveyards. They have open graveyards and they have money from them. There's a different risk, financial risk to them than there is to us. Our risk is Kirklees Council don't give us the precept, is our biggest risk. We do have some income from garages, we do have some income from allotments, we do have other income, and they all need to be taken on board. But so we should have a risk assessment that's more specific to us, financial risk assessment, rather than something generic for everybody.
So we're talking purely financial risk assessment?
This is, yes.
Not physical activities?
No, it is meant to be, you're meant to be potentially spin off at multiple risk assessments in multiple directions. This is more like an overarching principle about risk rather than a narrow specific thing.
Okay. So we have a risk management policy statement as we recommended by parish management, and that's been produced. It's for this full council meeting to approve whether we're going to approve that or not. So someone propose it. Councillor Brooke, someone second it. Councillor Davis. All those in favour? Okay, that's been approved. Thank you, Dr. Indeed. We had a presentation from the Ask Holme. We can note the summary. I propose that we note the summary that's been provided and look forward to further information coming from them. Does anyone have any further comments regarding that? Councillor Carey.
I missed at the beginning, but I'm sure he mentioned Councillor Greaves. I don't know about the working group that's looking at taking it forward. So have we got, is there any parish representation on that working group? I don't know if anyone on the council.
Yeah, me.
Councillor Greaves have just walked in, so they
I'm
Councillor East.
Right. So we are, as long as I'm just keen, I think it's a really important piece of work, and I think there was a similar piece of work done in Hempford, although I'm not really sure where that ended up. But these are important findings, aren't they? And they're really useful. They put a lot of work into it as a volunteer group as well. So I welcome updates from Councillor East in the future, and with Charles if he's just
Okay, so that piece is noted. Yeah.
Can I, sorry.
Councillor Hogley, sorry.
Sorry, no, it's one comment. The thing I was struck by in the report was obviously there's lots of stuff which you'd expect people to say, but I thought it was quite heartening that some of the things that we've discussed as a parish council in terms of supporting youth facilities and things for kids to do, particularly teenagers, came through quite strongly, and that's something we've obviously tried to support, which is good. And also, I know one of the things in the budget is we set aside some money to potentially support the playgrounds across the whole of the Home Valley. And again, I thought that was really positive because that seemed to be a theme that came up quite strongly. So I'm quite heartened that some of the messages within it seem to chime with what we've raised and we've put forward as our priorities. So I thought that was a good thing.
Councillor East. So have any other further comments on that? Have any comments on the Ask Holme feedback? No, okay, I'll start with the check with the Councillor. Okay, so that's noted. Item 21-22-116, Cartwell Rugby Club received a grant of £2,000 from CASP for new shutters, doors and windows from the clubhouse. This was paid £222. The council has reviewed the report, said improvements and made thanking the council. To note the report. Has everyone seen that report? They don't look bad, do they? Okay, so that's noted. To receive the chairman's report, since the last meeting on the 13th of December, I can report that I've had COVID. I wasn't very well over Christmas and New Year. I'm feeling a lot better now, but unfortunately I've not done any engagements in my capacity as chairman of the Parish Council, and I have not written 2 letters which I discussed about earlier on that I said I would write, and I will endeavour to do this weekend. So my apologies once again for not meeting those duties and criteria, but other than that I have nothing further. Oh, I have one thing to report. I believe I am planning on using some of the expenses, my council expenses, to send Councillor Dixon is recovering from Councillor Dixon TVA is recovering from an operation, I believe, and hopefully he's getting better, but it's been a difficult operation. It's been a difficult period for him. So whilst I would send him flowers, I think I'm going to have a word with Councillor Tom Dixon and see what his dad would appreciate, if that's okay. And so I'll be spending some expenses towards a gift for that. I'll report that at a later date. So it may be a basket of fruit, it may be flowers, I don't know, but I'll ask Tom and see what his dad would like, if that's okay. Okay, item 2122, identifying items for publicity arising from the work of the Holme Valley Parish Council. Since the last meeting, I don't think since the 23rd, it's not been very long ago since we met in mid-December. Have we anything to report from the Parish Council? Have we anything from this meeting? Councillor Holme?
Well, there's obviously grants that we've given recently, and I think it's worth kind of always feeding back on those.
Yeah.
But I also think, well, the fact that we've set the precepts as well,
Yes.
and set our budget for next year, I think there's an opportunity to make sure people are aware of what we, because I know a story recently went out, Richard Jennings, I don't know, about which grants we'd given and how much money we were spending in the community. But I think the fact that we're setting the precept and effectively setting what we're seeking to do this coming year is worthy of a story.
Okay.
Being Home Valley Review and also on Facebook.
Okay, Councillor Davis, then Councillor Collins.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up there. I think it might be useful just to put, what we've done in the last few years in terms of the precept as well, so give people a bit of context. So,
Councillor Collins?
I had really positive feedback, and Doug's was there as well, from one of the civic trustees who saw all the grants that Rich had been putting on the websites and things and the Facebook pages, and was really impressed by it and said he had no idea we gave so many different things out across the valley, and he was really impressed. I felt very proud.
I think we could publicly say that we are looking for another, we're looking for other venues around the valley for the next meeting. I think we're looking to share, to go out and find another alternate venue, go to the people. We can share that. Anyone any other further ideas? Councillor Shear?
Yeah, I feel that the work of the Holme Valley Parish Council needs to be taught maybe in schools and just even amongst the community, because I think people have no idea. I mean, I didn't. I thought it was something to do with the church, and loads of people do. Even people I work with, I say, I'm on the parish council, so is that the church? So people aren't educated on what it's all about.
So you believe the parish council maybe should contact, we could have a contact schools directors. Councillor Dalton, by
yeah, I think Councillor Sheard, while she raises an exceedingly interesting point, that's a symptom of what the schools are doing, rather than something that's something the schools need to be addressing. What civic institutions actually exist to do, and it's a sad reflection that the schools don't have that within the curriculum to teach children what a council does, what a government does, what a parish council does.
Okay, Councillor Collins, then Councillor Walker.
There's been a series. Adrian Childs in The Guardian wrote an article saying, I like to think I'm up on things, but I have the faintest idea what a parish council does, and I have no idea we have one where I live. And there's been quite a lot of interchange of letters and things. It's been quite interesting. So we might want to put links on our webpage or something like that.
Councillor Blacker?
I think possibly I was going to say the same thing that Councillor Hoggle is going to say, which is that the Platinum Jubilee, the proposals to involve schools in the Platinum Jubilee, the tree planting and the bee what's it, that's an obvious approach to all the schools.
Yeah, sorry, what Councillor Black said really, the Jubilee project, which was approved before Christmas, taking that forward is obviously raising awareness of the Jubilee, also climate emergency, but also what parish council is. So the intention is, hopefully, we'll be able to give assemblies at all primary schools throughout the valley, which at least raises some awareness, and obviously it's an opportunity then to send out materials to the families of the said students.
Okay, I believe there is within the democracy unit at Kirklees Council, they have a youth parliament still, and the youth officer that does it. I think it may be a possibility that we could approach and visit them and make them aware that we exist. You know, I think there. So, Councillor, I'm quite happy to contact them. Councillor.
Yeah, I think just before Christmas, put a letter from a certain MP saying what does the parish council do? Did we ever reply to the? I think he put it in the newspaper, didn't he? Did we ever reply to that?
So the one you do.
I go back to item 2.295, where I apologise for not responding to the MP, and I would endeavour to do that at the earliest opportunity. But thank you for reminding me.
The thing is, since I've been on the council, the floor council and CSA, it's always been a problem with communication. It's getting better with Facebook, what Richard's doing, Rachel myself. We're getting there, but we're still at the beginning of what, getting the information out there, and we need people's ideas. And while we're talking about people with ideas, we need people on the committee to come forward with some ideas. At present, we've only got 5 people on the public comms. Last week we had to cancel a meeting because 3 people could not attend, which is a shame. So I'm asking tonight, if anyone would like to join the committee, please come forward, because we need voices.
So that's a reach out. There are vacancies on the Pubs and Comms Committee if anyone would like to.
Can I make one little suggestion?
Yes.
Kirklees have pictures of the full council pinned up in every library. We could at least have it on our tool. There's photographs and names, which wards they represented. We could have it in our 2 libraries.
Okay, good.
And the civic hall.
And the civic hall.
It's on the board outside the
Good idea.
Councillor Kine.
I was going to put myself forward to join the Pubs and Comms. I was on it previously, and I will step up again. So I don't know if I need to be voted on, or if it's just a vacancy that's being filled. But I knew there was an email that had gone out asking for people.
There is a vacancy. Councillor.
I'm happy to propose Doug's as the seconder.
Yeah. Councillor, is second. All those in favour? Doug's is down on Pubs and Comms.
That still leaves.
It's only your committee.
It's all right.
Okay, I think now, thank you very much indeed for everybody's attendance. Can't believe we got through that so quickly.